The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, February 21st, 2018, Season 13, Episode number 103. Welcome to another edition of The Break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, joined by Nick Eatman and David Hellman. Amber Garcia is not with us today. She is out vacationing on the beautiful island of the Dominican Republic. Will be back with us hopefully next week. Actually, the week after that, because next week, Dave will be out at the Combine, and we'll be doing draft shows all week next week.
Best week of the year.
Yeah, so we'll be back on the air. After this show, we'll be back on the air in 2 weeks, ready to talk some more Cowboys football.
Best week of the year.
Starts.
Best week of the year.
For you?
Yeah.
Or just in football?
Not every year.
I was about to say, like, there's a lot of ways you delimit that, and I still don't think it's true in any of them.
It's usually 5 degrees, and you get to watch people in their underwear.
It's true. It's just. It's,
Well, maybe he likes that.
It's the whole.
Maybe it's Tommy John.
It's maybe. Well, I'll have the Tommy John. I can't speak for the players. They'll probably be wearing something else.
All right.
It's the whole kit and caboodle. Like everybody in the league is there, and like the power brokers are there, and people are having meetings and doing stuff that's going to shape the league, and all like everybody in the media is there, so you get to see friends that you don't see that often. Maybe you get to go out and get dinner or drinks with people you don't see that often, and obviously you get to talk to and look at this incoming crop of draft guys, which if you're into the draft, that's really exciting. And the Joneses are gonna tell us some stuff about what's going on with the team. So it's just, I mean, short of actually playing games, it's probably the most fun thing that happens on the Cowboys beat.
Any chance you can find me a social media person while you're out there?
Everybody
around the league's there.
Based on the way the last 24 hours have gone, I bet you I'll get asked about it.
You'll have me 20? You'll probably bring me 20.
I'll be asked about it a couple dozen times if I had to guess.
This may be like the hottest job we've ever listed.
That's
like,
unbelievable.
I swear, everybody in our office has brought me at least one person.
Well, you just opened it up even right there.
Well, when I put it out on Twitter, I got plenty of responses there as well.
Break listeners, tweet at Derek Eagleton.
I mean,
we are looking for a social media coordinator.
It's one of the few jobs that like everybody in the world already does.
Or thinks they can do.
Well, no, but they coordinate their own social media.
Yeah, but that's a loosely used term.
It is,
coordinate,
but
right?
I'm just saying, I've got Twitter, I've got Facebook, I can do this, right?
That's what they think. Yeah, no doubt. That's what they think.
Derek puts their applications on the floor immediately.
I don't do it that abruptly.
Not that harshly? Okay.
But all right, so let's get to it. We got a lot of things I want to talk about today. I want to at some point talk a little bit about this franchise tag that the Cowboys are expected to use on DeMarcus Lawrence. We're going to talk a little bit about what that will mean for the team and how it may affect free agency. I want to talk about one particular player that has already been tagged and how that could or could not affect the Cowboys. I want to talk a little bit about Combine. Actually, Dave, we're going to give you an opportunity to give us some names for those of us who are not the draft nuts that have been listening to the draft show, every show, some names of people maybe we can follow at the Combine next week and keep an eye on. But before we do that, Nick, I know there was a little bit of a news report that we're kind of expecting to come out here over the next couple of days. It seems like there's nothing official at this point, but it seems like the Cowboys have kind of, in putting the pieces together, that they've gotten to a point where they kind of have their coaching staff ready. We would expect in the next few days there may be an announcement on that. What do we know at this point?
I expect it somewhere today between 2 and 5 is where I expect that.
Tell people why. I mean,
well, we have a company event that for our group that we're all going to be somewhere between 2 and 5, and typically when that happens is a good time.
Good time to break news.
The news gets broken, so it's not really breaking news because most of the positions on the coaching staff that we've been talking about, we've already kind of loosely reported for the Cowboys for some reason have decided to lump all these in together for coaching, even though they're here, they're wearing the blue star, they're eating, so they're kind of already on staff. But we'll get all of the entire coaching moves, and some of them are guys that are moving around. So just to kind of highlight that in case you've been keeping up with it a little bit. The new hires include offensive line coach Paul Alexander, has been with the Bengals for many, many years. Sanjay Lal is the wide receivers coach, the new receivers coach. Ben Bloom is moving from just, I guess, special projects to he'll be the linebacker coach replacing Matt Eberflus, who's in Indianapolis still. Keith O'Quinn is the new special teams coordinator replacing Rich Bisaccia. And then those are also, and probably the biggest news, the biggest name is Chris Richard is the secondary coach. And in my opinion, I think the new Eberflus on this staff of the guy that could move his way into a coordinator's position he had in Seattle. And Seattle's defense was really good, obviously.
And the secondary was the best part of that defense.
Other names, assistant guys, stuff like that. Am I missing another position? Tight ends coach.
Did they settle on one?
Yeah, they did. They
Stay tuned.
I forgot. No, it's that we announced it. I forgot exactly what his name was.
Yeah.
But they're also going to hire assistant special teams coach. Or actually a defensive assistant, Ken Amato, that hasn't been announced yet.
Oh, yeah, it was Doug Nussmeier. That's
Nussmeier,
right. Forgot about that.
Of all the guys that kind of
LSU for 6 days?
For like a cup of coffee, yeah.
Sweet.
For all the guys that we've kind of pieced together here, just kind of following, what's happening with individual guys, is there any particular area where you feel like the Cowboys upgraded or downgraded? Is there any? I mean, it's hard to say with a coach that they downgraded because you just don't know what he's going to bring to the table until you see the results of what he does. But even from the standpoint of just like upgraded, do you think there's an area where you feel better about that position with whoever they brought in versus who was here last year?
Yeah, Paul Alexander. I mean, Paul Alexander to me he's got so many years, 25, 27 years with the Bengals. I think that he's worked with players, developed them into all pros, into Pro Bowls. Now he's dealing with some first-round guys that have already established there, can take really great players maybe to another level. He's somebody that I think can help this team. But there's two more that I would pick. We'll see what Dave goes over.
The obvious one is Richard, which I feel bad saying that he's like an upgrade over Matt Eberflus because I think Matt Eberflus was a hell of a coach. But, I mean, you're getting a guy who was a coordinator last year for and has been involved with one of the best defenses in the league and whose specialty is defensive backs. You got to view that as pretty exciting when you consider the resources this team has spent on defensive back in the last year or so. So, and we've heard reports that Byron Jones might be moving to corner and Cheeto Awuzie might be playing safety and all that. Whatever. I don't know, and it seems unnecessary to speculate about it right now, to be honest. But I mean, a guy like that having an influence on all those young DBs can only be a good thing. So.
And, we hear the word coach a lot. We typically don't call them teachers, but there's one guy that has been dubbed that a lot is Sanjay Lal from he's been in different places as a wide receivers coach, but really a good teacher is what he keeps getting categorized as. And this wide receiver group needs to be taught, I think, better. I mean, when it comes to route running, when it comes to scheme, what we're doing with different coverages. And so hopefully if he can do that, and I don't know what's going to happen at receiver. I don't know. Well, Dez is, that's a whole other show. But if Dez does come back, let's give him the opportunity to have a different voice in the room a little bit because, I mean, no offense to Derek Dooley, but those receivers were kind of doing their own thing, and I think they needed a different voice. Whether or not they got the right one, they needed a different voice.
I'll paraphrase a quote I saw from Coach Lau about, is it how you pronounce it?
I think so, Lau.
But one of the quote, and I'll paraphrase it. It was basically saying that he believes in the art of route running, and he believes that that's something that you have that is the most important characteristic of wide receivers that you have to work on. If that's the case, and if he brings that mentality here, I think it can only be good for this wide receiving core. Which, again, I don't think they're bad wide receivers. I just don't think that they have. They're none of them, in my opinion, other than maybe Cole, is really quick, extremely quick or fast enough that even without great route running, they're going to get open. But great route running makes guys who are okay, like kind of fast, makes them much faster. It makes them play much faster, I think. So if you can get that, I think that helps.
Helps your quarterback, too, with knowing where the guy will be at all times. And we know what kind of route he's going to run, and he has a good understanding. They got to be on the same page. I mean, something's got to change with the receiver position, where they're going to be, if it's not personnel, which it will be a little bit. If it's not contract, it's going to have to be their performance, and I think maybe a different guy in the room will help. So those three, he said it: Richard, Sanjay Lal, and I think Paul Alexander are the three that are, I think, maybe the biggest changes there.
I would agree. I mean, this is, in my opinion, I think Richard is the biggest of the three, because the thing that those two units have in common, the offensive line and the wide receivers, is they're full of veteran guys. Whereas, with the exception of Orlando Scandrick,
it's true,
everybody in the secondary is year 3 or younger.
Yeah.
So I mean,
for now.
Well, absolutely.
We don't know what's going to. I mean, you don't really know. I mean, if you went
They're going
down,
to add a
if you went
veteran.
down the list,
They're going to add 8 veterans.
and if you went down the list and looked at, if you just said, "Hey, give me a name of a veteran player that's been here for a while that if you thought he wasn't going to be here next year, the most likely one not to be here next year." I think more often than not, you probably hear Orlando's name. That doesn't mean it's going to happen that he will or will not be here, but I think there's at least some people believe that there's a good chance he won't be here.
Speculation every year about anybody that's got a contract. I mean, that's pretty much it.
But I'll say this, though. This isn't the first year of that, the speculation, and he did come back. His contract is not one that you have to get rid of.
Absolutely.
It's actually favorable.
Getting rid of him would be more about we believe the young guys are ready to play and we want to get them on the
But
field.
that being said, contracts that are favorable to keep are also favorable to trade, typically.
Yeah.
So if he's somebody that you would want to trade.
And to be honest with you, the only reason I think it's even worth talking about is because the way Orlando was sounding was more like, I'd be okay if I weren't here. Like,
regardless,
that's at least the way it sounded to me.
Regardless of whether he's here or not, 80% of the guys in that room next year are going to be 26 or younger. I mean, so, yeah.
And the most veteran guy of the group is maybe changing positions, right?
Well, him.
Well, he.
Don't forget Jeff, but even, I mean, Jeff's not exactly old either. I mean, he just finished his 4th year, so.
Nobody's gotten to a second contract in that room.
Jeff.
Like GOAT years.
Yeah,
though.
okay.
GOAT years, yeah. In GOAT years, he's like 30. He's 38.
There we go.
In GOAT years.
He's had one GOAT year.
He is the 3-time leader in interceptions on this team, 3 years in a row.
Okay, well,
That's a lot about.
Jameis is not on the schedule this year. Jameis and Rodgers.
It says a lot about Jeff Heath. I won't hear anything to the contrary.
All right, let's jump into free agency. Franchise tag. Cowboys or the NFL has just opened up the franchise tagging period where teams may place the tag on a player of their choosing. The Cowboys are expected to place the tag on DeMarcus Lawrence. My first question for you guys is, how much money is this going to cost? And I'll combine that with another question. Is that, and this is a point of clarification I think fans need to understand, does that money, as soon as you tag the player, immediately hit the cap because it is a 1-year guaranteed deal? Does that immediately hit the cap? And then we'll talk about maybe how that affects the team.
Couple fun things there, which I assume the NFL has made this information public to the teams. It's not public to us, but I assume the teams know, because it seems ridiculous that you have to put a tag on a guy not knowing what his franchise cost is. But as I don't know what the numbers are. They're not publicly available. I mean, you can do the math and get a basic idea. Yeah, the average salary of the top 5 guys at the position, it would cost the Cowboys somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 million, like $17.5 million to tag him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that hits the cap.
Yeah, and it hits the cap immediately. It's part of, I mean, when you have to be under the salary cap on March 14th at the start of the new league year, that's part of it. If you put the tag on DeMarcus, that's accounting for $17 million of your cap space.
So that big a number, $17 million, do the Cowboys have to do anything as far as player movement to get $17 million on their cap for this year without going over?
No.
They have that.
They're at something like 19 or 20. The problem is not getting under, which it has been in recent years.
Yeah.
The problem is not getting under. The problem is if you tag DeMarcus and don't sign him, then the tag money is eating into what you can spend on other people a lot. Which even that's not necessarily a problem. They can
restructure a lot of contracts, right?
I doubt they will. Like you look around and it doesn't seem like a good idea to be playing with people's money. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum already about maybe you want to get rid of Dez, so I don't know why you would push his money forward.
But there are other guys you could consider, right?
Tyron Smith is a guy, but he's had 2 straight years of back injuries. Do you want to mess with his money?
Frederick, maybe?
Frederick is the one guy that really makes a lot of sense. You assume he's going to be fine. So I would imagine they'll redo his deal at some point, which I think frees up something like $7 million in space.
Could you do something like that with, now maybe you don't want to because you don't know if his long-term viability, but somebody like Crawford who makes a significant amount of money? Because I'm thinking about contracts that are eating up a significant amount of money. Are there ways to decrease that amount that hits your cap this year?
Yeah, the answer is almost always yeah. But I think Tyrone is in a similar boat where and I haven't looked at this. I should have looked at this before we went on the show. I'm sorry. But if you bump his money this year, then it makes it harder to cut him next year. Whereas the way it is right now, if you just absolutely want to get out of his deal, you could do it pretty easily next year. So it's all a matter of how much do you want money right now versus how much do you want your salary cap to be healthy in the long run.
That speaks volumes to what this team is, because you can't find a lot of guys that are locked up that you feel really great about. I mean, because Frederick is one of them, and that's why he's a candidate. Zach Martin doesn't have a big contract yet. Tyron Smith is yes, you like what he's doing, but injury-wise kind of scares you. Tyrone Crawford's a guy that's got a lot of money, but like Dave said, Dave's already talking about how next year you might cut him because you just don't know. If he has another year where you're just like, well, it was pretty good, then he's making, he's upside down.
And that's also the thing about having a young team, right? You got a relatively young team.
Yeah.
Your quarterback doesn't make a lot of money. Your star running back doesn't make a lot of money. There are a lot of guys on this team who are playing significant roles for you that haven't gotten that second contract yet.
They will.
But
absolutely.
And I would also argue,
which is the factor you have to think about, especially from Zeke's standpoint.
Yeah.
If Zeke, well, I say that. I don't know for sure.
Zeke's not making a little bit of money.
That's true. He is
comparing Zeke's contract to Dak's is not very fair. I mean, he's on the books for like $24 million.
Thing about about that contract though too, and this is just a point of note. It's not guaranteed, right? There's nothing guaranteed about it. So, that certainly will allow you to maybe restructure him if you wanted to. And I don't know the rules, if there are rules about the first contract and you restructuring a first contract or not, but.
I want to say you can't.
You can't. Or what you get coming out of college is what you get.
Teams don't do it. I mean,
I've not really heard of that.
So I got to look into that. But that's not a thing that teams do for one. Yeah. And I assume it's CBA related. So it's just most of this team's big money contracts don't look great right now. I'm Tyron Smith signed the most team friendly deal in the history of team friendly deals.
So did Sean Lee. Right?
Yeah, well, you don't want to touch Sean's money based on everything you know about him. And I've said over and over again, I think Tyron's going to be fine in the long run, but it sounds kind of scary to be pushing his money forward when he has been as banged up as he has the last 2 years. So you kind of have a shortage of options when it comes to freeing up that salary cap space. And I think that's why you've heard so many people talking about this. The big one is Zach Martin, because it's not the franchise tag, but he's basically set to play on a 1-year deal right now too because of his 5th-year option. He's supposed to play. He's on a 1-year deal that's going to count something like $9.5 million toward the salary cap, which is why.
Go ahead, get that.
Get that extension out of the way, and it can help. Even though it's a big figure, it can help your cap in the long run because you would imagine his year 1 charge would be less than what his charge is right now. So. Those are the two things that I look at, signing Zach Martin and maybe finagling with Travis Frederick's money. You could always Witten's another guy. If you just assume he's going to play forever, you could probably do something with his money.
Why
too.
wouldn't you assume he's going to?
Yeah, exactly. So he just signed an extension last year, so he's got 4 years that you can push into the future or whatever. So, I mean, there's a couple options. I think when it's all said and done, even with putting the tag on DeMarcus Lawrence, I think they'll probably have something like $6 to $8 million in cap room to play with.
So to avoid all that is obviously getting a deal done with him.
And we're going to hold you on that one. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, I want to talk about that. Should the fans expect that they're going to do a deal with DeMarcus Lawrence that will ease some of that burden from a $17 million hit this year? We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
It can be hard to find the right resource for learning about important financial matters. You search how to build savings, you end up reading about the one weird ingredient from supermarkets that can make you taller. That's why Bank of America built BetterMoneyHabits.com, a safe little corner of the internet for answering your financial questions. Full of simple videos and tips, Better Money Habits can show you how to make the most of your money without resorting to random searches that always seem to lead to unbelievable photos of childhood stars grown up. To learn more, visit BetterMoneyHabits.com.
What does it mean to be a Dallas Cowboys fan? It means you've got the passion and the heart to do your part supporting the boys no matter what. That's why when the game's on the line, you're on your feet, whether you're at home or in the stands. Actually, you're more than a fan. You are a member of Cowboys Nation, and so is AT&T, doing their part to keep you connected to America's team all season long. AT&T is a proud member of Cowboys Nation.
Ice Cold Dr. Pepper and the Dallas Cowboys go way back. They belong together, like Texas and football, silver and blue, shotgun formations and Hail Marys. Having a Cowboys football party without Dr. Pepper is like having Thanksgiving without the Cowboys. Basically, we wouldn't recommend it. So, next time you have a tailgate, home gate, or whatever else kind of gate, grab some ice cold Dr. Pepper for you and your friends to enjoy. It's a Dallas Cowboys tradition. Dr. Pepper, the one you crave.
To work this big land, you need equipment with values rooted as deep in Texas soil as you are. Like John Deere compact tractors with a 6-year powertrain warranty and big features that help you work less so you have more time to do what you love. John Deere was first in the Texas fields, and we're proud to be on the field as the official ag and turf equipment of the Dallas Cowboys. Find Texas-sized deals at myjohndeeredealer.com/football. Terms, conditions, exclusions, and warranty limitations apply. See dealer for details.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It's the second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're talking franchise tags, and we're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, what the Cowboys are going to do with him. Dave, you got something to say?
Just every football fan's favorite topic, bookkeeping. Yeah.
Woo! Man, it's this time of the year where you're like, man, I would love to have a game coming up this Sunday.
Honestly, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but like I enjoy that aspect of it. I like team building and finagling the money and the rosters. I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on it for somebody, for a layman, so to speak, but I wish I could be more involved in it.
You know, I like following it, and I don't remember, I'm pretty sure you were not here during this, that one year when we had the, I don't know if what you call it, lockout, whatever it was.
The work stoppage.
That year, free agency was fun because basically everything got compared.
I didn't know what word you were going to say.
It wasn't fun for Nick.
It kind of started out that way. I thought you were talking about something else.
Yeah, right. No, but just because everything was contracted because they basically had to wait, and once players were allowed to come back, then there was like a period of what, Nick, a week, 2 weeks, when guys were getting signed, and so like across the league, and I like following across the league all the movement of players. But when you put all that into a short period of time, oh, man, it was a blast.
I remember it as a fan. Like 12 hours after it was over, like the Saints had signed Darren Sproles and all this other. I was just like, whoa,
crazy.
Whoa. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I wish, and actually there was some talk at the time, like, should the NFL maybe consider, like, doing that, like making your free agency period be a finite amount of time. So there's like a 2-week period or 3-week period where all free agency has to happen. And I thought that'd be a great move because it does. It forces teams to, either do it or don't, but everything's going to be compacted in that period of time.
I don't think you could really do that with all the different circumstances around the league and reasons why guys hang around, but it would be nice if there was a way, like we always, it's a strategy teams use. Like you can kind of hold guys hostage and like let the money bleed out before you try to, I wish there was a way to make a rule against that so that teams couldn't just leverage against players and stuff like that.
Don't you look at like around the league, around sports and other leagues, and just, the NBA for one, and just think, man, what a mess that is. Now you might like, if you were in it, you might understand it a lot better. But
when you say mess, what are you talking about? What are you saying?
Well, I'm just talking about just the way the contracts are, where Jeremy Lin can trigger something in his deal and he makes $12 million or something like that.
NBA's like another language.
Like you trade guys for the purposes of cutting them. Like you trade a guy, I'm trading to get him so I can get rid of his contract.
Like all that
doesn't make sense.
Max contracts and salary dumps and all that. It's like a whole nother. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I'm sure if we were on, Mavs break, I guess maybe we'd have more to talk about there and be able to figure that out. But I just can't.
And we'd have a lot to talk about. So
let's go ahead and move on from that.
Yeah, good.
Good.
Let's talk about more on the franchise tag with DeMarcus Lawrence. Nick, you started talking about that before we went to break, and just talking about the fact that how does this affect you then from the standpoint of, does that force you to now move a little quicker if you wanted to sign DeMarcus Lawrence, to do that a little faster to free up more money? Do you think that affects their thought process on what they're doing with him?
Well, I think it should. You're gonna try to get a deal done. And the thing that it does is, Dave talked about like not knowing the number and all that. I think it's probably a good thing. I think teams are glad that it's not out there because, they're not necessarily saying that they're going to tag him. Obviously, it's an option. But even when it's thrown out there like that, that's the starting point. Once you tag him, and now you have to work on getting a deal, that's the starting point. $17 million per season. Or at least
is it though? Because the way I look at it, there is a price.
Yeah, it's a starting point. Because I'm saying that doesn't mean it doesn't go down,
right?
But you already gave me a tag.
I got you. Yeah.
And so now
that's factored in. That becomes leverage to some degree for either side.
You want to make me 14 a year or 13 a year? That's fine. 6 years. Or something like that. So,
or I'll just take the 17 for a year. I can always just do that, and then I'll go back next year, and somebody else will pay me 15 per year after that. So, yeah,
that's what makes this, and that's it's out there, and that's sort of the accepted strategy is that the Cowboys are going to wait until the deadline, which is March 6th, to put the tag on DeMarcus because they want to try to get a deal done. I just don't think that's realistic at all.
Really?
Yeah, because
what would be the holdup? What holds this kind of deal up from getting done?
The fact that I assume the Cowboys don't want to make him the highest paid defensive end in football. I assume.
Would you think that that's what he would be asking for?
I think he could come close to getting it on the open market. I mean, Olivier Vernon got $85 million 2 years ago, and his career production was awfully similar to Lawrence's. And Lawrence has had back problems 2 of the 4 years of his career. He broke his foot as a rookie and got suspended his 3rd season. And on top of that, and for those reasons and others, he's only had one really, really quality season. He had a pretty good year in 15. And then last year, obviously, he really blew up. So I don't know that the track record is there to just want to hand him this crazy amount of money. And Nick's right. That's the starting point. So I just did the math. 17 over 4 is $70 million, and 17 over 5 is 85. So you're talking about a significant chunk of money for a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if they're not convinced he's worth it yet.
But that kind of deal, you're not guaranteeing the last year, 2 years.
No, but
contract, right?
You're probably talking about half of that being guaranteed.
Yeah,
maybe about half of it. Right?
Vernon got 52 guaranteed or something like that. And Olivier Vernon had 25 career sacks when he got that deal. Is it fair? No, but the open market's out there, and there are teams with hundreds of $1 million of cap space who would be happy to pay him.
And if I'm Lawrence and his agent, I have all the leverage. Well, not all the leverage, but he's got some pretty good leverage right now to be like, I don't have to do anything for a while. I'm not signing anything until March. What's the deadline?
March 6th is the deadline to put the tag on him. He doesn't have to sign anything until July 6th.
But I wouldn't do anything until March 6th because make them give me the tag or a deal that I can't refuse.
Right.
And because then once you give them the tag, then you tag me.
But even at that, is it not a smart move for him, even after he gets the tag? Let's assume they give him the tag on March 6th. Is it not a good idea for him to then, at that point, say, I'm not doing a deal until I see what happens in free agency? Because that helps shape his deal as well. I don't know what other defensive ends are out there, but that will help shape the market.
Sure.
And he will say, hey, that guy over there didn't have as many sacks as I did. He got this amount.
Right.
So that also can help him, I would assume. It can go the other way, too, if those guys are less than what he's shooting for. But I certainly think that could also be a part of the thinking, right?
I guess I'll play devil's advocate for a minute, too, and say, DeMarcus has said before, he loves the organization. He knows how they feel about him. They've been loyal to him, all that good stuff. Maybe if they make him an offer that he thinks is fair, that maybe doesn't reach up into that stratosphere, maybe he'd be willing to sign it just because that's the type of dude he is. Yeah. But that's what agents are for, and I think any
to talk you out of
any good agent would be like, nah, man, no, we're not doing that. And so to your point, I could be wrong, but I don't remember very often where a franchise tag guy signs a new deal before May, June, July. You're not going to get tagged and then sign, while free agency is going on. Yeah, it's just not.
Well, that's one of the benefits of waiting is that you do get a chance to see that's on the free agent market.
Homeboy over here got X amount of money, so come to the table with at least that, or don't even worry about it. That type of thing.
And for years, it was the Raiders. Raiders would sign guys to these deals that just totally messed up the whole market.
They did.
You know,
I remember that. Yeah.
They were, well, this guy got this money.
Every year they'd mess up the draft and they'd mess up free agency. It's like, God, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
You're messing up the whole league.
And the Redskins have kind of done that a little bit too. Redskins sign a lot of high profile players and they get them done. Front.
And to be honest, Cowboys had a period when they were kind of doing that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you overpay for anybody, it changes the market. So it's not just, you're right, it's not just the Raiders, Redskins. The Cowboys have done it too. They haven't done it as much lately.
Yeah, they've kind of changed that mantra.
But one thing that the Cowboys have done is they look at what works around the league. They see that. They see what New England has done at times with the 2 tight ends, and then they were going to do 2 tight ends. And now that they've seen with these little slot receivers, and they tried to do the same thing. And so the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and they've done a lot of it with free agency and guys in. I will be surprised if the Cowboys have another free agent year where they just sit back and don't do anything. And I'll be surprised.
I don't think it's just the Eagles. I think it's the Eagles, and you go back a couple years before that. I mean, the Giants they remade their defense, but the Broncos, they won a Super Bowl off of revamping their defense. So through free agency.
Yeah,
so I think there's been a lot of instances here in the last 3 to 5 years where teams have kind of changed their fortunes. If you have a good team, you can take your team over the hump by going out and spending a little bit in free agency.
I don't think it'll be a crazy year. I do think they'll be more active, though. I really do.
I'm interested to see. I tend to want to agree with you, but where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
That's the thing for me.
It's going to have,
realism.
And you're right. And it's going to have to, and that's the selling point to DeMarcus. It's like, listen, if you want to be here, we want you here. You want to be here. Let's play. We can sit here and play games all you want to. But if you wait all the way until June or July and we get this deal done, and you shave off $17 million to counting about $5 or $6 million this year, how does that help us? Now, you want to help us? You want a badass safety or a corner or another defensive tackle? Let's do this deal. It's good for all. It's going to be good in April and May too, and it gives us money to be players in free agency. That's, I think, the sell to DeMarcus of why. Hey, you're going to be here. Help us, and let's sign these guys.
And going back to what Dave said, he seems like a good guy. Seems like a guy that kind of has perspective. Maybe that is something that resonates with him and makes him say, if I think it's a fair deal. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something where I'm just taking a hometown discount to take a hometown discount. But if I think it's a fair deal and it's like, this is what I think I'm worth, and maybe it's not the highest paid guy, but I think I'm worth this, and I feel good about it, then maybe that does get it done.
This is the same guy who celebrated sacks last year by taking money out of a safe. So I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. If there's one thing, I don't know. If there's this, I feel a lot better about this than I did about the Dez situation when it happened 3 years ago. Because DeMarcus has said time and time again, like, he really doesn't care, and he's not a politician. Like, he's going to tell you exactly how he feels. He has never been shy about that, and he said he's like, my agent's going to take care of that. I know I'm here. At the Pro Bowl, he said, tag's fine, contract's fine. I was like, you're the first player to ever say that. Like, I don't remember anybody sounding so laissez-faire about getting tagged. So.
But the fact of the matter is, if you play defensive end, if you play quarterback, if you play cornerback, taking the franchise tag, although there's the risk of not having a long term, the amount of money you make changes your life and the generational wealth of your family. So I agree with him. Like, if you're going to give me $17 million for a year, and I'll bet on myself on that, then I'll take that $17 million because that's already going to change my life and my kid's life. But on top of that, if I have another good year, I'm back to the same point next year and can make even more as a franchise tag player, or if I go into free agency. So
and football players are a lot like sports writers in that they're probably not that good in math. Sports writers aren't good in
Speaking
math.
for yourself, or
Football.
just like
I can't count. I can't do basic arithmetic.
But even the basic can tell you, if I get 17 checks and I'm making 17 million,
that's pretty good.
That's about $1 million a check.
Now wait, there's going to be a part that's going to be taken out of that.
I understand.
Don't bum me out.
I might get $500,000
realism.
I might get $500,000 a week, but hey, go ahead.
Right.
I see your point.
You know what I mean? And I just think that when somebody told that to him, like, oh, I'll take that, $1 million a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sign me up. Where'd I sign?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And he should. I mean, he he's in a win-win situation. But like I said, if the Cowboys go to him and say that scenario, like, help us here so we can be players, they better be players.
Yeah.
They better do it.
No doubt about it.
Don't. Oh well, it just didn't work out. better go and do that. And so hopefully it's going to work out. He's going to be here. It's not the first guy though that the Cowboys are in a tough situation. You can go back to the last 10 years and find players where, for whatever the reason, you have to make a tough decision on. It was contract time, and we haven't, when Zach Martin comes up, everyone knows what Zach Martin is. Like, okay, so he deserves it. But it doesn't always work out. Miles Austin needed a contract, and he'd done it for a year. Doug Free needed a contract, and he'd done it for half a year. Tony Romo needed a contract, and he'd done it for 10 games. It happens where you just like, well, we have to decide here. And it's not, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
But that's also the reason why I'm of the belief that argument right there is what makes me think that a guy like Orlando could be gone, is because I think the Cowboys more and more are thinking, when we get these young guys in here, we got to get them on the field as soon as possible. And that's our way to be able to know when it's time for that contract. True. We know what they are. So we know whether we need to invest the money in them or not. And based on what they saw last year, I think they have reason to believe that given opportunities that maybe, just maybe, those two cornerbacks that they drafted can be long-term fits for them. And so from that standpoint, they may be like, we just got to get these guys on the field and playing more because we need to know who they are by the time it's time to make a decision on their contracts.
Yeah. And that's true, but you can lose games with cornerbacks. And I'm not saying that they did, but
it's tricky and it's a dangerous game to play. But they played it last year.
Played it last year,
and they played it without any real understanding of what those cornerbacks were.
They played it to a dangerous.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if they would do it last year, what makes you think they wouldn't this year? They got a lot more information to work on this year. Again, I think those two guys played admirably for rookie cornerback.
They were rookies to a T.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up some plays, some touchdowns, some pass interference late in games, but they also played well throughout the game, where it's like, they were helping you. They were getting off the field. They weren't making interceptions really, one each, but.
Well, I've gotten used to not having interceptions.
Yeah. But they definitely give you some like, okay, if they're going to get better than this, then we have a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Assuming Cheeto stays at corner, and I know I've been on here and said that I would look at him at safety, but I know I get my Twitter feed gets kind of blown up when I do that because people they're like, we finally have a good physical corner. Why can't we just keep?
And I like the size at corner. Like, that's the other thing. There's some big receivers in this division. Like, I like the size at corner. And, you forget that Brandon Marshall's still sitting over there in New York. Now, I assume he's going to still be there for another year. He's a big guy. Alshon Jeffrey's a big guy. Like, there's some big guys you have to face in this division. I like having some size. Like, right now, there's not a lot, right?
Well, we'll see. See if Byron Jones is playing there or not. I don't know.
But,
all of us, it becomes kind of a big
size and skill. Like, I wasn't that impressed with him as a cornerback. I thought he was decent. I didn't think he was like, moving him back to me is not, oh, we're going to get better premium value. It's let's just see if we can find some place for him to play.
Well, we'll see.
I just look at body type. Yeah, he was getting carried too many times. The tackle that Cheeto made on Marshawn Lynch, I don't care what Marshawn did afterwards and what he said to him on the bench. He went back 5 yards, 3 yards, or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, he felt that just as much as Cheeto did. That looks like a safety type play to me. Whatever they do is fine, and hopefully they'll bring another safety in, and
I'll
be campaigning for that move if they, along with you, if they do that. But
yeah.
All right, calm down.
All right, let's take our final break.
Like that move too.
Yeah, you do. Everybody does.
I thought I was the safety guy. That's been my thing since like mid-season last year.
Well, but I think everybody, all of us are in agreement that if that were to happen, if that guy were to end up here, then I think that's what we're talking about.
I wasn't even.
If that guy ends up here, I think we're all very happy about something like that.
I'm firmly just don't even. Let's deal.
I know we probably should.
Did the headline be "E.T. Come Home"?
Let's deal.
Like it.
Oh my!
He did say, "Come get me," right? He said, "Come get me, bring me home," right?
Y'all are acting like fanboys right now.
We are.
Let's just deal in reality while we.
All right.
Oh my God! If they could sign any LSU player, you'd be like, "Bring it."
That's not true. I mean, I'm not.
Patrick Peterson at the end of his contract, ready to go. He wants to come to Dallas. would you not be geeked?
If Arizona let Patrick Peterson go, I would assume it's because his play has dipped to an unbelievable degree. Because that dude's never leaving there as long as he keeps playing.
Not the point. You didn't answer my question.
You'd want Dwayne.
If for whatever reason he was,
Bowe.
if for whatever reason he was available, would you not be absolutely geeked?
Did I not sit on this podcast 3 weeks ago and crap all over the idea of signing Jarvis Landry?
True.
He's not Patrick Peterson.
True. Go to break.
So I'm just saying.
Whatever.
He's got that.
Whatever.
He said that.
He did say that.
Now, if it was,
but he's not Patrick Peterson.
If it was Odell,
No. I got the real one. The Badger.
Oh,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, he's already blushing right now. Like, oh yeah, bring him over.
That's my guy.
All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We're gonna get some questions here, and hopefully you guys have some questions for us. We also gonna get a combine preview. Dave's got some players he's gonna throw out. Some players you may need to keep an eye on next week during the NFL scouting combine. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Cowboys fans know that the second best of anything simply won't cut it, and your skincare should be no different. A longtime locker room favorite of the players and the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Dallas-based Jack Black is the #1 best-selling men's skincare brand in the country because we make products that help guys look, smell, and feel better. Visit getjackblack.com/cowboys to get $10 off your first order of $50 or more. Jack Black. Look good, smell good, feel good. Official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
I hear all this talk about what it takes to be a cowboy. Everyone's got their ideas, but I just say to myself, it's what's up top that matters. Sure, you need men with the muscle and heart to get her done, but if your scouts and coaches are listening out there, a word of advice. Pick the man with the most well-worn Stetson. That's the one most cut out to be a cowboy. Stetson hats are handmade right here in Texas and have been on cowboys' heads for over 150 years. The rest of you can visit Stetson.com/cowboy to find a retailer nearest you.
What does it mean to be a Dallas Cowboys fan? It means you've got the passion and the heart to do your part supporting the boys no matter what. That's why when the game's on the line, you're on your feet, whether you're at home or in the stands. Actually, you're more than a fan. You are a member of Cowboys Nation, and so is AT&T, doing their part to keep you connected to America's team all season long. AT&T is a proud member of Cowboys Nation.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Talked a little bit about the franchise tag, and now I want to talk a little bit about the combine. Let's look at some of these guys that are coming out of college. And Dave, fill in the music over there. Give us a scouting report for the combine that will start next week. Tell us a few names of some guys that you think are worth keeping an eye on. And I want you to, at some point in that, give us one guy that's become kind of your pet cat. One guy that in this process you've kind of fallen in love with, like, hey, I really like this player. If the Cowboys were to land this guy, it would be a game changer at whatever point, whether that's a first-round guy, whether that's a second, third, fourth-round guy. I at least want you to give us one of those guys. All right?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. All right. Well, here's the reason why I was not on y'all's wavelength at all about Earl Thomas back there in the last segment is because I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, the Cowboys need a safety, and his name's Derwin James. And that's the funny thing about the combine is like right here on February 21st, you know, we got the TVs in the studio.
Derwin James of
Florida State University.
That's
your
thing.
I know.
I should not have to remind
you.
You're right.
You're right. Derwin James, safety out of Florida State University. Right here on February 21st, like we really have no idea. Like there's so much that still needs to be solidified, which to the point that Derwin James is a name you hear a lot for the Cowboys at 19. Like maybe he's in that 12 to 19 range that it's realistic to think, but we will be at the combine next week where a lot of these guys are going to work out, run, jump, do all that stuff. And Derwin James is a physical freak. I think, I don't know if he's going to put up Byron Jones numbers, but I think it'll be similar. So
physical freak, I mean, like his actual physical makeup or in his athletic ability?
His athletic, both? I mean, a little bit of both. Like, I mean, he's a safety here. I'll pull up measurables. I mean, he can play strong. He can play free. Oh my gosh, that can't be right. He's 6'3", 211 ish, give or take. He can play strong.
Like the size.
He can play strong. He can play free. He's played outside in a pinch. The Seminoles used him as like a big nickel linebacker guy. Like he can do all that type of stuff for you. I think he'd be a day one starter here.
Interceptions. Does he get?
He was hurt one year.
Well, I mean, just is he around the balls? He'd make plays like that. I mean, because I don't think Byron Jones, when you looked at all of his stuff, he had great numbers and he could run and jump. Obviously,
he only played 2 games in 2016 because he tore his meniscus. He played 12 last year and had 2. 84 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, or 2 picks. One of those returned for a touchdown. I just think he's got sky high potential based mainly on his athleticism. Which my point being is I don't know that he'll still be a realistic candidate to be the Cowboys pick when he's done working out. Like when he's done running a.
You think he's a safety that will jump up higher than 19?
He's already in that range right now.
When he's done running like a 4.4 at his size and jumping.
4.4 guy?
I think he's going to put up some freaky numbers. I don't know.
Let's not forget this aspect, and I don't care what teams will tell you that they don't think about it. I think they're lying. Jalen Ramsey, for doing what he did, I just think it's hard for teams not to separate the two. And like, do we really want to pass on a guy like this? And I just think guys that come from the same school, right?
Yeah,
Florida State.
Yeah, just making sure I wasn't thinking of someone else. No, but I mean, when you get guys from the same school, I just think it's just natural to be like, this guy was great. This guy looks like he's going to be great. I mean, I'm sure it happens.
Yeah, no, and it does. Well, it's interesting because, safeties either go super high or they kind of fall. I mean, Earl Thomas went 10. Eric Berry was like 5.
Worth it.
Malik Hooker should have been a top 10 pick last year, but he fell all the way down to 17, which gives. And Derwin, like I said, he tore his meniscus 2 seasons ago, so I'm holding out hope that he's a guy that they could draft, but I don't know how realistic.
Is he good enough that if you give me the number 15, 16, and he was still on the board, that you would consider giving something up in order to go get it?
It sounds like you listen to the draft show because we had that argument, and Dane Brugler threw out a couple of names that Roquan Smith, the linebacker out of Georgia,
East,
and I think Calvin Ridley was the other one, the wide receiver out of Alabama. He said he'd go up and get those guys, but if Derwin James starts slipping to like the 15, 16, I would give up like a 3rd round pick.
And if those guys are gone, or with those guys
over
him,
guys that over him.
What about
over them? Excuse me.
If they were still on the board, you would go up and get him.
Well, who's getting drafted here?
I know. I'm just asking though.
Lamar Jackson.
You put this guy, as far as a talent, you put him above. I think Roquan Smith and above it's the receiver.
I think in terms of the need on this team, because at the end of the day, I know you need an insurance policy for Sean Lee and Jalen Smith, but at the end of the day, you right now have 2 starting linebackers. And I said right now, I know.
No, I agree with that. I'm trying to see what you're going to say about that other position, though.
Wide receiver. Yeah. Wide receiver, this class is loaded, and there's no reason you need to.
You still can get good value.
Yeah, there's no reason you need to spend that pick on a wide receiver, in my opinion.
If the Virginia Tech linebacker
Tremaine Edmonds
kind of falls a little bit, he would be a guy I think I would look at.
It's so hard right now, and that's the big thing about the combine is it helps solidify, no doubt.
Oh.
Well,
he ain't
better than Roquan Smith.
Roquan Smith looks like a big old safety. I mean, he doesn't play that way, but he kind of looks that way.
Roquan Smith is more in the vein of your Deion Jones, like the modern, small, fast linebacker.
Which
this guy looks
for
like
this
Kirkland.
defense. That's what I kind of want to see is the guy that can go sideline to sideline faster than anybody else.
Right, but what if he looks like Levon Kirkland doing it, like this Edmonds guy?
Is that what he is? He's like
Edmonds looks.
He looks like a lineman.
He looks like Urlacher. Like he's like 6'4", 245. Big old, he can play all 3 spots.
Similar skill though.
Yeah, I mean he's
just bigger.
I don't think he's as. I don't know.
Not as fast.
He's probably not as fast as Roquan.
Just remember this: when the Cowboys, because we're going to get thrown quarterbacks in your face every time you look at any draft thing. It's what about Josh Allen? What about Baker Mayfield? As a Cowboy fan, you want them to just go crazy. don't let the ball hit the ground at their pro day. Be off the charts. That's 4 spots ahead of you that have to be drafted. And maybe Lamar Jackson, if he can have a great workout, somebody might
5 guy, yeah.
Maybe.
Or wait, there's 2 ways to look at that. Do you want a whole bunch of quarterbacks going and pushing players to you, or do you want quarterbacks lasting so that somebody at the back of the draft wants to jump up to 19 and get their guy?
Quarterbacks affect everyone.
They really do.
Dave's saying it, and it's right, especially with Jerry. Jerry's proven. There's been 2 occasions where a guy has fallen to them in the 19, 20, 21 spot, and they've traded out and got a pick next year.
That's what I don't like, though, because I feel like right now what this team has is especially on defense, I feel like they have a lot of good players. They don't have enough catalytic players. They don't have enough players that change games. And to me, you start dropping down into the 20s, and I think that's where you get to that really. And you guys, you can tell me how many guys in this draft actually will have first-round grades. Usually it's somewhere around that 17, 18, 19 range. You start getting into the 20s, you're really drafting second-round talent.
I think the first round of this draft is pretty weak compared to.
So it may even be higher than 19. Like it may be 15, 14, 13.
It's usually between 16 and 18, something like that.
Did our response equal another response when you said that earlier this week?
What?
But you said it was kind of weak. We were just like, oh, okay.
What?
Earlier in the week, you and Brian had some good conversations.
Well, no, we got in an argument on the show. He was like, "That you're just being lazy." Blah blah blah. Like, go look at 2016.
Thanks.
Go look at 2016 and all the studs that came out of that draft, and tell me that this one looks as good to you. I don't know, but I go back and forth on that because I mean, Travis Frederick was pick 31, DeMarcus Lawrence was pick 34. I know the DeMarcus Lawrence they picked at the time and the one that's about to get paid are not the same guy.
Well, that's the point. You get into the second round, your second round talent, their second round is usually because of other things combined with their skill. Right?
Well, that's the age
either haven't done it enough, or they got an injury, or something like that pushes them to second round talent. Right?
What happens in the war room if one of those quarterbacks fall? And somebody says, we'll take your pick. We'll take your draft pick for next year's one. Now, typically, Jerry loves that idea. But you've got a coach who can't go 9-7, can't really get into the playoffs and not win a game.
Help me now.
And not, get a stay here next year. He's got to have to go a round or 2 deep in the playoffs. And so, do I want to help? Oh, who am I helping next year? I need players now. So that would be an interesting scenario if that happens. And the coach is in the room going, next year, my ass. We got to win now.
My pet cat of all pet cats is a wide receiver by the name of DJ Moore out of the University of Maryland.
Okay.
Tell
me about him. What does he do well?
He's not impressive, like from a physical. No. From a physical standpoint.
I was gonna say that's
he's
not
like
a good pet.
He's
cat.
like 5'10", 200 pounds. But
what's wrong with 5'10"?
I mean, you don't play wide receiver in the NFL.
Good.
But he played at Maryland, which is they've been a dumpster fire for most of.
I saw him up close and personal, but go ahead.
Good. Well, good. Yeah. You know exactly what he can.
I want you to tell the listeners. Yeah.
He does a little bit of everything. Like he's a fantastic route runner. He's got fantastic hands. He can play outside even for a short guy.
Highly productive in college.
He played at Maryland where he had 8 different quarterbacks during his college career. Caught 146 balls for 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns, averaged 14 yards per catch. And again, he was cycling through quarterbacks like nobody's business. No passing threat whatsoever. His junior year, he caught 80 balls for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. Was the Big Ten receiver of the year for Maryland, like in a conference that has Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, all these badasses. He was the receiver of the year. I'm stealing a line from Dane Brugler, but Dane always compares him to Steve Smith.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
How could you not love that?
Absolutely.
I just he's a polished route runner. He's got awesome hands. He just gets. He's not going to go up and do. He's not going to go up and out muscle people like Dez, but he's just going to be open all the time.
The one thing I don't like about that is
he's gonna give you a GMBO or a GOMB.
Yeah.
Every time he catches the ball. So
I got to make sure you get those right?
Every time he catches, he's not just going down, like he's going to fight.
Like that.
Yeah.
We need more of those.
But what does worry me a little bit is it just adds to your list of sub 6 foot wide receivers, which, do you want speed? Do you want size or do you think you need more size?
Does it bother Antonio Brown?
No, that's a good point.
I don't care about. I mean, like,
good point.
And I'm not getting rid of Des Bryant, so I'm not forfeiting that.
Yeah.
So
Say that about Antonio Brown. But the guys around him,
got a ton of big guys.
Yeah, big guys around him. So you kind of wonder if you need more of a balance there. I mean, like I really like Christian Kirk a lot, and
he's another small guy.
He's another small guy who's mainly a slot guy too. So I don't know. I'm a piggyback guy when it comes to the draft. Like most people are, they like other people's reports on what they see. Now these guys on the draft show are watching the tape, so you got to give them credit there. One of the guys that I like, and Dane kind of told me about it first, and then I just started looking at him, and running back, North Carolina State, Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
This guy, now, second, he might be too rich for you. He might be a guy like Dave is saying, will work his, run his way up the charts but track guy plays running back. Usually you see track guys at receiver.
Yeah.
This guy, track guy, just thick, but runs hard. But I mean, he is explosive.
Is he a guy that
dynamic.
might get into that 4.3, 4.4
Maybe.
range?
I don't know exactly. I mean, if he's a track guy, he's got to be in that range.
You'd think.
But I think watching what Kamara did last year, that type of guy can help teams. I mean, the Cowboys still want that guy. They wanted Lance Dunbar to work.
Would you take a running back in the second day of the draft?
In the second
Yes.
day?
Yeah.
I think in the second day, yes.
Yes.
Second,
Now in the second
third
day,
round.
you're talking second, third round. Would you take a running back in the second,
That's
third
a great
round?
question.
Third round. Yeah.
You would.
I mean,
But I don't know if Hines, the problem about that is Hines has to prove that he is a every down type of back, because I think with this team, with what we've seen, you need to get a guy that can say, all right, if something happens to Zeke, even if it's a game or two.
Yeah, I would. And that's
Dunbar couldn't do that.
I've heard you talk about that guy before, and I know Dane and Brian talk about him. I'll just give me 3 War Daddy running backs. Like you got Zeke. Rod Smith is 6'3". Just give me another well-rounded, bigger
That
dude.
you're okay taking 4th, 5th. Right?
Yeah,
You don't want your Chris Thompson type guy. You don't want that. You don't want that short little speed guy.
I would rather just preferably he can catch the ball, but like he doesn't need to be so specialized that he's like Lance Dunbar, like you can find a running back who's 5'11", 210 who can catch the ball,
Because I think what people forget about Kamara too is that he could run the ball right up the middle.
Oh, absolutely. And he did it well.
Yeah.
Kamara's not a super small guy.
No, he's just compact.
He looks kind of thin to me, but I don't know. Maybe that's just the way he looks, Kamara.
I'll be a real homer for a sec since I just said I wasn't. And I'm just throwing this out there as an example, but Darrell Williams, senior running back out of LSU, he was stuck behind first-round picks his whole career.
He better than guys? I mean,
No.
you're not saying you're just saying he's
absolutely not
just a good guy that didn't get on the field.
He's a solid running back who didn't see a lot. I mean, he didn't see as much of the field as he would have at almost any other program. Really good player, can catch the ball, powerful guy, could do everything you need him to. You could probably get him in the 4th or 5th round and bring him on.
And let's not forget that guys like that, I mean, they don't have a ton of wear and tear on him.
Good point.
Because he's already.
I think. I mean, because of how much this team leans on the run, and because of how much you can't count on Zeke, at least that's what we've seen so far. I think running back is a sneaky concern. And I like Rod Smith, but he's only under contract for 1 more year. Like, get me another guy who's going to be on a 4-year deal who can come in here and will cost less than an Alfred Morris and has less tread on his tires than an Alfred Morris. I think that's I mean, preferably not in the 3rd round, but if you told me it was like just a badass, I'd be okay with it.
All right, let's take. We appreciate you guys joining us. We are back in 2 weeks. Next week, you should make sure you check out the draft show. We'll have it running every day next week except for Tuesday, I think it is.
We might be joining the show on Tuesday.
We might do a joint show next week, but just stay tuned for the website. We'll let you know when all the shows are going to happen. But definitely will be some live shows happening at the Combine next week. So until then, for Nick Eatman and Dave Hellman, I'm Derek Eagle, and this has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?